Good morning, everybody. Hope you have a nice third day of Modern Collaboration Summit in Paris. I'm really excited to be here. And I think it's my fifth time in a row that I support Patrick and Gökhan at the conference, which is really very exciting every single year because they always do something new and something exciting. So this year we had a boat ride. We went for galette in Odessa Street yesterday evening, which is very nice for me from Austria because we only have the sweet crepe, not the salty ones. So I really like that. So what we will do in the next 50 minutes, we will a little bit talk about what Microsoft 365 and cybersecurity have in common and how it looks like and what it will be in the future. What is a look ahead? I will show you some new stuff which was announced at Ignite, which might be interesting for you as well if you go more into security and compliance. So what we will do, just let me skip that, is, and this is also something which is quite new, every security slide deck has to be black, not white. Because it's always, when you talk about security, you always talk also about fear and anxiety, and people need to feel that with a black slide deck. So, and this is also something what I try to do is to stay in a state within security where I said, okay, this is what we're gonna get, and this is what we have, and not this is what will happen to you if you do not follow all the steps. So I try to discuss it without anxiety and without creating fear. But it's really difficult if you talk about security and compliance because very often you have to talk about what you have to do, what you have to follow to stay secure and current. So starting with some numbers we have here is when we talk about security and compliance by the numbers, and this is kind of a summary what happens in the last year alone. And when you look at that is that we have 75 billion devices which are connected to the internet. And that means it's not only your personal computer, your Surface, your anything. It could be your refrigerator, your microwave, your car, everything. Every single device is kind of connected. We are forming sometimes kind of a cyber network because everything is connected through the internet, and the internet knows everything because it's a huge graph. And when we think about that, and also your mobile devices, your IoT devices, your printers, everything is connected kind of. And the other thing is that 4 billion records are exposed to that internet due to data breaches. And this is an enormous amount. Consider that, how many data we are creating and how many data is exposed in the internet. If you do a Google search, you can find a lot of confidential information if you use the right terms in searching for that and discussing that. And also, another trend we see a lot in the security space is it's not the bad outsiders, the bad hackers with their hoodies and the caps. Very often it's an insider attack which happens. So people who do not know or people who do not want to are also exposing data to external or to the internet and so on. So this is also something which could happen. And then we have, and in France it's the same like in Austria, like in Germany and so on, we face a lot of regulations. Very often when I start talking with customers and I do a lot of deployment projects with customers, the first thing is we are not allowed to do that. We can't do that. We can't use Yammer because it's in a US-based data center. It needs to be in Europe. There is no single regulation saying that, but people believe that. And beside that, we have a lot of regulations which are coming to customers. So for instance, if you're working with a bank, you have an MiFID requirement. That means every single mail needs to be duplicated and stored and archived and so on. So we have a lot of regulations facing us. And after GDPR, because we all survived the GDPR regulations, kind of, California is following the same path. Next year, we have the same story in California. And maybe we also get that in Switzerland and in other countries as well. So we have a lot of regulations which we are facing, and there are a lot of regulations coming in there. And also when we talk about that is that 42% of all executives think they will probably not survive a cyber attack. They can't recover from that. And this is a huge amount of people. And this is also a huge amount of organization facing that. And that means if you have a cyber attack and you can't recover from that, it will probably destroy your business. Here it is, the fear I talked about. And this is also something I can tell you out of practice, because I get a lot, or very often we get involved into companies who are currently facing or have been in a cyber attack. And one of the recent customers of us, it was 2 weeks ago, it took them 47 hours to be online again after the cyber attack, 47 hours. And the fun part was we spoke with the customer and we said, yeah, we can bring you online with Microsoft 365 in the next 2 hours if you want that. And 4 hours later, we got the info from one of the executives. He said, no, we do not have a cloud strategy. We stay on premises. And it took them 47 hours to recover from that and be online and can communicate after that. And it's not that they fixed their problems after 47 hours, but they were, again, reachable, mail servers were up and running, and so on. So it could be a really hard topic in there. And also, what we see a lot when we talk with customers is that in every organization you have more than 1,000 cloud applications which are used within organizations. And that means the more restrictive you are in your organization, the bigger your shadow IT is. This is what I like most. Oh yes, my people are not allowed to connect everywhere. They connect via VPN to our central network point. We have the endpoint protection, everything is there. And then we do a little talking with people. It's just talking, just asking questions. Or we do a cloud app security report with them, and then we see how many enterprise apps are used in the cloud without the knowledge of the local IT services. And this is also something you need to consider. Because, and I have it in my slides, I have some examples brought with there. It's very hard for users to recognize attacks. It's almost impossible for them. Because it looks the same, it has the company logo in it, it comes from a person I know, it's considered with a little bit of stress because I forgot something, so it's really hard for people to recognize that kind of attacks, and those kind of attacks are coming more and more in the coming years. So if you're working in security, you are fine to go. And also one of the things we need to consider is today every single company becomes a software company. We cannot say we are not into digitalization. Every single time, even if people say it's a buzzword, digitalization is not us. We are a production company. We do not produce, we do not do software and so on. Every single company is currently connected with internet services. Every single company has people who do development. Every flow is kind of a citizen development membership service. So you see people are doing that, and that means also on the other side that every single company became a software company and is in there. And also what we see here is it's a very big challenge for companies to stay current and to stay on top and stay in the business as well. And the last thing I want to highlight here is it's not a single step. Security is nothing only a CISO is responsible for. The security officer is not the only person. Also, the CIO of every company is responsible for securing the company and their organizational assets. Please consider that as well. It's not, you can't delegate security to one single department or to one single person, because security is something every single person needs to know that and needs to handle that. And also, when we will talk about how can a user do security, it's very often what I see when talking to people out of the security department, we always say, you have to do this and you have to do that without an explanation. But if you start to tell them why they should secure their business and why it's important to do that, then they recognize, okay, we are probably at risk. I need to secure my data. I do that in my private life. I will also do it with my public life as well. So yesterday in the afternoon, I did a little research, or I Googled the internet, what happened in France with cyber attacks, and it's very easy to find that. So you see, you can look at that, you can look in the internet, and you can see what cyber attacks are going on. And I can't speak French. I think the result would be more impressive if I do a research in French. But what you see here is that cyber attacks are true for every single company and every single organization. When I talk with my customers, very often they say, we are so small, we don't count. We are not a big target. We are not important enough. It doesn't happen to us. The risk that it happens to Microsoft is much higher because we are too small. But what you see in practice is the risk is here for everyone, and the risk is present for every single organization, independently how small or how big it is. And if you look at that, and if we do that in practice, just let me switch back to my browser, and I check that. And you can go into cyber attack France. You can find a lot of things going on in there. And if you go into the news and then you see what happens here. So a French hospital is offline after a ransomware attack. This happens all the time. And hospitals have to deal with private data a lot. And very often what I see here from the budget situation in healthcare, they said we do not have any money to secure our infrastructure. And this is something which happens a lot when you talk with customers, that they say, okay, it couldn't happen for us. We do not like that, and so on. And also, if we talk about attacks here, it's very often a very simple attack here. And I will give you some very simple steps to prevent that and to do that. And see here, I'm just going through the news. And it's very easy. Everyone can do that. And you see what happens just in the last month in that. And consider that not every company makes that information public. They have to do that because of GDPR. But what I see in practice, not every single customer is currently doing that, or it doesn't go to the press because it's not that important that they have to do a press announcement. What I see here, and I worked a lot with customers who got that, very often a customer makes a press announcement because they went dark for 1 week or 2 weeks. And all the other vendors of that company said, what's happening to you? I can't contact you. Every single mail drops. I get NDAs. I can't work with you anymore. What's the issue? And then very often those companies also go public with their security issues they are currently having. So going back here, what we see also is that in the first half of 2019, we had almost 4,000 breaches seen in the industry. And this is also a very impressive number because it's a 50% increase since last year. So if you're looking for a new job and you don't want to do software development, go into security. You're safe there. Believe me, because many companies are currently looking for security people, and every single person can do that. So consider what I did. I was very heavily in enterprise social. I did a lot of Yammer projects in the past because I love social. So I did a lot of Yammer enterprise social, and on the other side, I'm working with enterprise customers, and one of my largest customers is an international bank. And this bank said, okay, we need to go more into security and compliance. And then we worked with them, and this is also something where I went into security more and more within Microsoft 365. And also what you see here is 70% of all attacks are based on phishing attacks. And this is also what happens day by day. And do not think it can't happen to you. It can't happen. It can happen to me. It can happen to everyone. Phishing attacks get better and better. And also what we see here is a phishing attack very often stays unrecognized because one single person clicks in a mail, in a phishing attack. What does the hacker do? So either he tries to encrypt all your corporate data and get some big bitcoins in exchange. Or the second approach might be that the hacker wants to learn about your organization. How many bitcoins would you pay? So they get into your organization, they do their forwarding email stuff, they collect other data, and then at one point in time, they start investigating in your organization. And that means this is the day where you discover, okay, since 200 days I had outsiders in my network. I didn't know about that, but now I have a problem and I need to act after that. The second one is stolen credentials. And probably you have seen that. Microsoft made an announcement last week that 44 million accounts within Office 365 and Azure Active Directory use the same credentials in other accounts as well. To put that into a percentage, it's 85% of users use the same password in more than one service. So that means if you have one, you have access to other networks as well. And this is how hackers work. They work with password lists. And you can also see that. We discovered that with one of our customers. We looked at the machine and we saw a hacker is trying to log into that. And we watched them for 4 hours and then they were in. So it could also happen that the credentials are already known and so on. And also one of the things is 34% of the breaches are going through insiders or insider risk attacks in there. And when we look at that is we have an endless complexity in the security space because we can't handle that. In previous years it was pretty easy. Everything on premises, no internet involved, job done. People go into work, people leave work, that's it. All my assets are on premises. Currently, every single user in your organization travels with corporate data. Every single user. Yeah, try to turn on VPNs. Good luck with that. Every single user goes with your organizational data on his mobile device. So it means it's really complex to look at how to handle that, how to reduce the risk for the users. Because one single example I can give you from one of my customers. So last year we had the WannaCry encryption service running there. And one of my customers had the following situation. An employee at home got the email with WannaCry. And he said, I didn't order anything. But I'm still curious. Maybe I got something. Maybe somebody sent me a present. But I do not want to harm my personal computer. But hey, I work in a big organization, and they have a security department. So I'm safe to forward this email to my company email address and open it tomorrow in the morning when I'm in the office. 750,000 encrypted files later, we all learned that he didn't order anything. And we also learned that it doesn't mean because you're working in an enterprise with a security office that you are 100% protected. This is also something you need to learn. And the user hadn't had bad intentions. He just was curious about what might happen and if he had ordered something or got a present. He got a present. Or the company got a present. So what is Microsoft doing? And also what Microsoft was learning here is that security is not enough to make it only built in. So it's always a cross-platform security approach. Microsoft can't secure everything. They can't secure the whole planet. So they have to integrate with third-party solutions as well. And the other side is they have built-in security statements in there. And this is something which is very interesting if you look at Microsoft 365. When I started working with Office 365, Office 365 itself was enough. Currently, every single customer looks in Microsoft 365 because they need their mobile device security, they need Azure Active Directory, they need information protection, they need identity protection, everything there. And also what Microsoft learned there is it's not enough to have people looking at your security because it's a broad spectrum. We have a lot of triggers, we have a lot of signals to do that. And this can be handled with the help of AI. So AI can discover security breaches you wouldn't recognize as a person because they are the tiny steps which happens in behind, which you do not discover in your log files, in your security posture, and so on. So you see that as well. And also, one of the things, it's cross-cloud. So consider also if you're using Microsoft 365 and Azure, and some of your developers are using AWS or Google Cloud, you have to secure that as well. It's not a single cloud scenario, and it's also not an endpoint scenario with your perimeter network. And the last thing, what I want to highlight is also its cross-application. So very often when I look at Cloud App Security reports, I see, okay, my cloud application is secure, but the cloud application itself uses some other stuff which is handled in the cloud. So for instance, I Twitter a lot, and I use Tweeten. So my app is Tweeten for that. So and I looked at the reports, and then I thought, why are we using so many Amazon services? I'm not aware of that. And the thing is that I learned that Tweeten is running on Amazon. So that you see if there is probably a security problem in the third-party vendor apps, it could hit you as well. So consider that as well, so that you have to go cross-cloud in that as well. And also, The new buzzword here, and we will talk later on that, is zero trust. So zero trust means never trust anyone. That's it. Don't trust me. Prove me. It's the same. Because think about that, it's social engineering, and that works, believe me. Social engineering very often works. Yes, I'm your CIO. I need the credentials. I need to do that very fast. I will call you because it's so urgent. And people don't know. They react on that. They react on stress. And they probably react in the wrong direction. Consider that as well. And zero trust means I do not trust my mobile device. I do not trust my device. I do not trust my IT ops team. I do not trust my CISO. Every single person, every single device could be under attack. And zero trust means you always investigate as you are handling an attacker into your environment. So if we talk about built-in, so the built-in functionality we have here is Microsoft 365. It brings a threat and phishing protection. So very often when I get asked by customers that they say, okay, I do not have enough budget to buy the whole Microsoft 365 suite, but if I need to buy one single item to make my environment more secure, what would you buy, Martina? I always tell them go with ATP, Advanced Threat Protection, because phishing prevention reduces your risk by 70%. Just that people click on the link and they get a notification, okay, this was the wrong link. There's danger behind that. It's not 100% security, but it brings more security into your network. So also go into that. Then we have endpoint protection and response, and that means you need to protect your endpoints as you did before, but you also need to do that in the future, but your endpoints are now endless. An endpoint could be your mobile device, because that's the first thing which goes into your organization, and so on. And then we have data loss prevention. Data loss prevention, I like that, because I talked a lot about that. Data loss prevention means I need to prevent that my users are sending sensitive information to outsiders. Most common example is PCI data, credit card data. I do not want my users to send credit card data to an outsider via email. Have you ever had email contact with a hotel chain and tried to book a hotel room via email? The first thing they ask, can you send me your credit card information via email? Or please, here's a sheet of paper, write it down, everything. And I will keep it forever, your credit card information. So also think about that. This is all data loss prevention. What data are you losing? And also when you think about data loss prevention is also what data do I need to secure there? What is my intellectual property I need to secure? And very often, if you look at the statistic, you see 3% to 5% of all organizational data are the 3 to 5% which kicks you out of business if they are lost. The famous Coca-Cola formula, which went to Pepsi-Cola because Martina sent it to them. Could be that example as well. And then Microsoft was, or put it in preview, and now I think it's in public preview or it's GA. It's a cloud native theme. Why do I need that? So the product behind that is Azure Sentinel. So for people who haven't looked in that, please look in that, because it's for free for your Microsoft 365 services. And that means you can connect all your Microsoft 365 services to Azure Sentinel, and then you get an overview picture what is going on in your tenant. Also, to give you a practical example about that, last week I worked with a customer, and they had kind of security issues in their past months. And now the collaboration team who do normally work with SharePoint, Teams, Yammer, and so on. So the people who are responsible for communication, they turned on Azure Sentinel, and then they found issues with false logins, and they reported that back to the security department. It's just because those people are discovering how a SIEM could be helpful with their alerting and everything else. So speaking about AI, and that means Microsoft is currently discovering 8 trillion signals daily. You can't handle that as a person. I can't handle 150 emails per day. So you can't handle 8 trillion signals. So we need the help of AI. We need to discover on a global level. And this is also, to give you a practical example here, Microsoft has the big advantage that they have a lot of data. So a zero-day exploit might be a zero-day exploit in your network, but it might be not a zero-day exploit within the Microsoft network anymore, because they had that issue before and they learned from that. And also Microsoft is currently working with more than 3,500 security experts to secure the data, because if they are a very famous target, so every attacker wants to attack them. And also, if you speak with the security guys, Microsoft is not attacked 5 times a day. They are attacked every single second. They are constantly under attack, and they need to protect their data and also the customers' data in there. So if you look in there, what is built in and what we have here, I already talked about, we have identity and access management. The data you need to secure is your identities and also your information. So we always talk about identity protection and information protection. I do not care about your mobile devices. I do not care about your personal devices. I do not care about your corporate devices. I care about how you sign in and how the data on your devices are protected. Use whatever you want. There is a Linux team client available since yesterday, so go with Linux. But we need to protect the data on the devices. So this is also something you need to think about. Then we have information protection, and information protection, I like that. Data classification. Who does data classification in his organization? Okay. We have less than 2% data classification. When I started to talk with my customers about data classification, they said, yeah, we do not care. Every single data, every single email I write in my organization is under NDA. Even if I write my husband what he wants for dinner tonight and I use my corporate email, it's NDA information because it's written with my corporate email address. So don't think about that in that way. Data classification can help you to discover the data which needs to be protected within your organization. And it doesn't mean necessarily that you have to encrypt it additionally, but it means that you have a classification level set up that your users understand and that you can do on every level, on premises, in the cloud, and so on. And the important part here is the user needs to understand it. If you make it very complicated, he won't use it. That's it. Very easy. Too complicated, don't use it. I do another approach. So best example, if you turn off external sharing within your tenants, people will stay with sending over attachments. Data loss. The most important data loss tool by today is email. Because this data, which is sent out with an attachment, is gone, and it's gone forever. So consider that. If you think turning off external sharing in your tenants is a good idea. Then we have insider risk management and compliance management, and that means very often you need to handle very sensitive data with information barriers. You need to protect the data within your organization as well. And then you also need to stay compliant due to regulations. And then we have the integration part, and this is only an example what you can do, and this is huge. Identity protection also means you can connect other applications to your Azure Active Directory and turn on the same security level when they authenticate there. You can do that for SAP, you can do that for Salesforce, you can do that for thousands of apps nowadays. And this is also something you need to consider. We are now in a situation where single sign-on might become true. Might become true. And you have to handle and secure one single identity with that. So go into that and think about that. Then, and I love that slide because I have a lot of customers who do not believe me. As I might remember you, zero trust, but they believe Gartner. So if you do not believe your security officer, you can look at what Gartner says. And very often when I talk with security officers, I get the response, Microsoft is not a security company, which was true in the beginning of 2000. So Microsoft learned a lot around security, and they also developed a lot enterprise security management functionalities for you. And this is also what you need to think about that, because what I see with many customers is they have third-party security products in place, and this is a good thing. But always think about you need to connect every single security item to get an overview about your whole system. Otherwise, you're looking just in one tunnel, in one silo, and think you are secure here. Give you a practical example out of Microsoft security. So every single customer now asks me about, can we turn on conditional access? Because then we are secure. Modern out is true. We need to secure with conditional access. And this is very important. Please turn it on. But also on the other side, if you still have applications which use basic out, you do not see them. Because conditional access relies on modern authentication. So if you still have EWS services in place and other services in place, you probably don't see the security attacks which can hit you. And for those who didn't know, Microsoft announced at Ignite that they want to enforce modern out for every single application by October 2020. Next year in October. So I told you so. Be prepared, as most customers are now prepared for Windows 7 replacement or Office 2013 replacement. I'm still in time. Yeah, okay. Okay, next topic I want to talk about is the intelligent security graph. And this is if you're working with a company who kind of has a good overview about all data which is going on in private life, in personal life, in organizational life. You see with the Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph, Microsoft can discover threats very soon because they have a lot of signals in there. And also, if you need to connect your third-party SIEM to that, you can connect the Intelligent Security Graph to that SIEM and get an overview about what is going on within Microsoft 365. And also what you see here, they have also data from Xbox, from Bing, from other consumer data. And this is extremely helpful. Microsoft learned a lot about email security when they acquired Hotmail, because it's a lot of data you can look at, and it's also a lot of data you can track here. And if we look at that, what happens here is that we are currently doubling our data, I think, every year or every 6 months. We have data everywhere. And data is our new assets, and we need to protect them. And this is also something you need to consider if you think there. This is a current study from IDC. And they predict in 2025 we have 10 times more data present in the internet in our organizations than we have it in 2016. So we have a lot of data in there. And also, when you look at that, what the World Economic Forum is currently saying is we have, if we look at organizational health and if we look at how we stay in the business and how we behave, is we have no global warming, so external weather events could harm your business, disasters and water crisis and natural disasters. But 2 points were added this year, and the 2 points is data fraud or theft, so it kicks you out of the business because of that, and the last one is cyber attacks, because we are constantly under attack, and if you do not know yet, you will probably learn in the next months about that. This is also something you need to consider if we talk about that. So what is Microsoft doing? Microsoft has an own DART team, and DART is meant by Detection and Response Team. So this is the team you call if you have a heavy cyber attack in your organization, and normally you don't want to meet those guys. So it's better to keep them wherever they are, taking care of other companies, not of you. But the DART team is a team Microsoft did to help their customers, to help them going into situations where they were hit by a cyber attack and where they need to recover from that. So, and the interesting part here is they had some learnings. So what happened to them? So they are working cross-industry. So they can't say it's only FSI which is hit by cyber attacks. It's only retails. It's cross-industry. They also said you can't say the typical hacker looks like that. So you can't make a profile out of that. They also learned that very often the initial attack vector is a phishing attack, and I talked about that. And the business impact is always a full operational shutdown, which can happen to you. Another practical example, last December, just 2 weeks before Christmas, like this, where a customer of me was hit by a cyber attack. And I said, yeah, you need to investigate and you need to bring in people who also check your internal networks. And they did that, and in January they called me and they said they are everywhere. They are on our SAP system, they are on our on-premises system, they are everywhere. I do not know how to get rid of them. And then you need to investigate. It doesn't help if you throw away your whole on-premises infrastructure and build it new. It's not helpful. So you need to handle that in another way. And also, what the DART team learned, and this is another question to you. Who has turned on MFA for every single account within Microsoft 365? Okay.
It depends on the number of identity in the tenant.
So one of the learnings here was, sorry, wrong direction. MFA, and I'm telling that my customers since a couple of years now, and I have the impression I'm telling always the same truth, is 99.9% of all attacks could be prevented if you turn on MFA. And my question was also for service accounts and also for your executives. Because what we also learned is exceptions are very dangerous. So to give you an example, one of my customers, 12,000 users, they turned MFA on for everyone except management. So if you are an attacker, what device are you most interested in? Yeah? So what you can do with MFA is you can prevent a risk of compromise at a very high level, and it's a very simple step. Don't get me wrong, every single person can handle MFA. It's not that difficult to handle that. So please think about that. And then what you also need to think about is, and as I told you before, 42% of all CIOs think that they can't recover out of a cyber attack, after a cyber attack. And one of the suggestions I'm currently working on is that I speak with the security guys in the enterprises I work with, and I said, have you ever think about a cyber recovery plan? Creating a cyber recovery plan. What are the steps you have to do after a disaster? Think back at the World Economic Forum slides. Probably in your organization you have a recovery plan for natural disasters strike or other things which could happen. You can also think about creating a cyber recovery plan. What happens if your electronic infrastructure is not working again? How you can recover and how you do that. And when you do that, that means, so a cyber recovery plan, it just includes the information, what is an attack, what is my recovery strategy, whom I need to communicate with, what is the legal impact with there, and how can I do that to be prepared when something happens. And to give you a practical example around that is, because we're talking about operational resilience and cyber resilience, what a big bank is doing here, and again we're going through Google, is the Bank of England created a cyber recovery plan and made it public, just to show we are a bank, we can do that. You can do that as well. And it's a great example to start with. Google for that, it wasn't accidentally public, so it was intentionally public, and you can look at that and learn from that how they do that. It's an overview how they will react to a cyber attack. And this is also something you need to consider if you talk about security. And you see also how you can do it from there. So next one is if you want to follow a security guidance, these are the 3 things I would recommend doing and using in the future. So first of all is turn on MFA. Not only within Microsoft 365. Please do me a favor, turn on MFA for every single identity which has some value to you. If it's Facebook or Twitter or Amazon or PayPal or everything, please turn it on. Every single device. The next one is stay current. Stay current means we are in an evergreen industry and we need to stay current with our infrastructure. If you're still on Windows 7, if you're still on Windows XP for your retail PCs in the production, consider you are at risk if you connect them to your network or to the internet. So always think about staying current. And if you want to begin with security, a very good approach is that you go into the secure scores. And Microsoft likes scores, like scorecards or anything else. So what you can do here is that you have a security score, you have an adoption score, you have a productivity score, and you also have a compliance score. So you have everything in there, and you can start working on your security with secure score. Just to show you how it looks like before we end is here you see this is the secure score. And you see here, with security score, you can also look where you need to improve. So for instance, if you look at that security score, you see there's no data classification in place because there's a lot of improvement left. Identity is pretty well, but probably devices and also applications are not so well managed in that specific organization. So think about that and use secure score with that in your environment. So that's it. Are there any questions left? Any recommendations? Anything else? Are you afraid? Do you still trust me? Okay.
How long how long does it take for companies to get more secure?
So one of the questions is, how long does it get for a typical company to get more secure? So it depends if you go into identity security or information protection. Information protection is normally a project which takes 1 to 2 years. Not from the technical effort, but because you have to include a lot of users and speak with them, explain them why they have to do that, and not how they can do that. From the identity perspective, security perspective, try to use that and make it secure from the very beginning. So do that from the beginning on and try to implement that. Another question in the back? Yeah.
You were talking about service accounts.
Yeah.
For MFA with service accounts. It seems very complex to set up. We have to hire a lot of people to validate every match starting every night. How it works.
Okay. So the question was, how can I turn on MFA for the whole organization, especially service accounts? Because Microsoft is not ready to use service principal for every single manageable account. So what you can use here is you can turn on MFA and then use the alternate password for put it in there and put that password, the single password, in the safe for the service account. Then you won't get the MFA prompt. It's not ideal, I know, but it's better than not turning on MFA. Okay? I do not have a better answer. I'm waiting for a better answer since 2 years.
Couldn't you do MFA and then use conditional access to exclude the location from which they can as well?
Yeah, so the question was, if I use conditional access, can I configure it to exclude specific locations where the device with the service account logs in, or if your users complain that they do not want to be prompted after MFA if they are in the company? The answer is yes, you can. And the answer is yes, a lot of companies do that. But from a security perspective, you're putting yourself at risk. More questions? Okay, so thank you. Have a nice remaining conference and hope to see you again. Thank you.